Before we transition from university to high school and then nursery, I just want to share one personal story. So, a lot of people, so going back to grade 12 when we're applying to universities, everyone's saying, okay, even if the degree isn't good, university is really important because you're gonna it's gonna be an opportunity to network with a bunch of students. And I was thinking, okay, yeah, that sounds cool, but still is not justifying why you're paying, 40,000 to go network with people. So I trusted them, and then I went to university. I did my first year in Queens, for those of you that don't know me, which is in Kingston, Ontario. And so the first year passes by, and it was pretty much what I was expecting from first year university. I was living in the dorms. It was a bit of a party school, and I chose it on purpose because I wanted to experience what university was like in a college town. So Concordia, you can pretty much see it from here. It's just smack in the middle of downtown. It's a tall building. You don't get that immersive college experience. So I chose Queens, which is in Kingston, which is, I like to think, I know you guys like it. After I've been there for a year, it's a bit of I think it's a shithole, which might be unfair, but that's another rabbit hole that we can go down. But really, Kingston was just about Queens. Anyone that goes there will tell you, like, no one chooses to go to Queens because of the city. There's nothing. There's like two streets, bunch of homeless people, a bunch of crackheads everywhere. But we go there because of the school. So it kind of feels like a boarding school, almost, is how I can describe it. So, anyways, the first year passes by. Made a lot of cool friends. We hung out a lot. We played sports. We did party, which was fun, and that's what I wanted out of my first year. But nothing too. When I think of networking, I'm thinking, okay, how can we create value in the future? How can we maybe set up a business? And or I'm looking to set up a business in 3 or 4 years. What do you think about my business plan? Do you have any advice for me? That's what I think about, networking, not having a beer on a Sunday night. But anyways, the first year passes, and then I go back to school. So I worked in the summer, and I'm going to talk about that on a different podcast. I did the student works management program. So I essentially opened my own painting franchise from scratch. And that was an amazing experience. And I was essentially living in the real world. I was doing door to door for 3 hours a day at the start, and then reduced to like an hour. And I was dealing with real clients, dealing with money, dealing with tax, dealing with employees, which was a complete headache. So after going through that entire experience, I think it made me more of a man. And I finished that experience, and then I'm going back to university, and it's about the first weekend, and I've transitioned out of that party phase of first year, and I'm thinking, okay, now it's time to make use of university, extract as much as possible from it, join clubs, and let's start my career in physiotherapy. So, anyways, it's the first or second weekend, and then my friends come up to me, and they're like, let's start planning for Hoko. I just look at them. I'm like, what? You guys are actually planning on doing all those street parties and all those bullshit parties again for an entire second year? And I realized right there we were on completely different paths. They just looked at university as, okay, I'm gonna go to class, try and pass, and then I'm gonna try and have as much fun as possible on the side, party, and just get drunk every weekend. And I was in Kingston, so it was suffocating. Like, I couldn't. It's not like I can go meet other people. who aren't in Queens. It's only students at Queens. You walk around downtown and you just see people you know from the school. So it was suffocating, and I maybe didn't completely realize why I felt suffocated at the time, but when I feel suffocated, I immediately have to leave. So before I even told you guys, I started up researching. Okay, transferring. How can I get out of Kingston? Let me see. Can I go to Europe? Are the transfer credits better if I apply to Germany? And so I ended up applying to Concordia and McGill, and yeah, I ended up choosing Concordia. And funny story about McGill, actually, while we're on this topic. I know I'm going on rants, but I so I came. I was still in Kingston, still at Queens. I came for the weekend to go and visit Concordia and McGill. So, and for the people listening who don't know much about either of those universities, in Canada, or I don't even want to say in Canada, internationally, McGill is regarded as more of the prestigious university. So it's not the equivalent of Harvard, but let's just call it Harvard. And then the other one, Concordia, is, let's maybe not like a state college, but something below Harvard. Okay, that's how they're viewed internationally. Here, I would actually say that's not necessarily the case, because people are starting to wake up and realize that the name of the university doesn't really matter. It's more about the education. And so I walk into the Concordia building, and it's modern, it's well renovated, and the facilities look good. And I just go up to I walk into one of the offices, and I have no idea where I'm going. I'm just walking in, and there was just a lady having a chat with one of her coworkers, and I had walked into the wrong office, and I was like, "Oh, sorry, sorry, I didn't mean to walk in here. I thought it was the whatever undergraduate admissions or something like that, where they can give you a tour." And she was like, "Oh, no worries. Where are you visiting from?" And I told her, "Yeah, I'm at Queens, but I'm looking to transfer to Concordia." She was like, "Oh, she was like, that's so wonderful. Let me give you a tour." And so she took time out of her day to just give me a tour, help me out with my admissions. She wasn't even an admissions officer, and she offered to help me go through my file because I had some questions about transfer credits, and it's so overwhelming for anyone that's looking to transfer. There's so many documents, so much bullshit you have to read through, and she took the time out of her day to help me out with that. On the other hand, the next day, I have this good impression of Concordia. The next day, I go to visit McGill. So it's a long walk from here. It's around 30 minutes, maybe more, honestly. So there was this huge uphill, especially the kinesiology building. It's like pretty much the farthest building from here. It's where, for those of you that did the McGill Sports Camp, that's the building. So I go, and I walk in, and then it says the undergraduate office and stuff. So I walk in, and I'm sitting. There's people at their office, and they're typing on their computer. I sit down in one of the waiting chairs, and they can see me, and they basically just ignore me. I'm sitting there for 10, 15, 20 minutes. No one says anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go up. This is crazy. I've been sitting down here. There's no one else around. It's just me, and they haven't even acknowledged my presence. So I go up to her. She was typing like this. She just stops and looks at me, and she goes like, "Yes, like what do you want?" And I was like, I came all the way from Kingston, and I was just wondering if I can get a really quick tour, just like 10, 15 minutes. I just want to see what the facilities look like. And I also just had a couple questions about my admissions. And she just goes, "Sorry, we don't do tours at this time. You can go on the website and, book some virtual tour." And I was shocked. Like I genuinely couldn't believe it. And I was pissed. So I ended up asking to speak with her whatever supervisor, and then they ended up giving me a short tour. But it just showed like they they have this entitlement which I detested. I hated how they were snobby, and so I just knew I couldn't go to that school. There's no way I'm putting myself in that building. Although it is tempting, the name McGill. You tell people, "Oh, I got accepted into McGill and Concordia, but I chose Concordia," and they look at you like you're crazy. And by the way, the facilities were basically like degrading. It hasn't been renovated since I've been there. I went to McGill Sports Camp when I was like 7, and even then the facilities were extremely old. Like nothing has changed. Nothing. It's anyone who is in that program will tell you how bad the facilities are. And so yeah, that's how I chose Concordia.